Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, for the sake of completeness, two Mahler editions on major labels. Here they are, the Deutsche Gramophone, or Universal one, because it includes Decca material, and the Warner one, which was on EMI, because it wasn't Warner back then. These were issued around the time of the 150th anniversary of Mahler's birth, which was in 2010, right? He was born in 1860, 1960 plus 50, 2010. And 2011 was the 100th anniversary of Mahler's death. He's actually quite lucky that way because he gets a double anniversary, which gives record labels 2 years to issue unnecessary box sets of all the stuff that they've been flogging for decades already. And sure enough, here they came. There was actually a third from Universal Decca. I don't know if you remember it. I don't have it here, but I had it at one point. It was called the People's Edition, and it was supposedly, theoretically, we were led to believe, a selection of the symphonies only that were somehow the people's choice, and just what people those people were and how they chose them. I have no idea. But it actually had some really good stuff. Just for the record, I think off the top of my head, it had, Kubelik's first, which you always have to have. It's always the choice for the first. The Zubin Mehta second. The horrible Claudio Abbado Berlin Philharmonic third, which isn't so bad a performance, but was a terrible recording. The Carillon fourth. I don't know what people picked that one. I don't mind it, but there are others. Bernstein in 5, 6, and 7, Schulte in the 8th, and Giulini in the 9th, and Chailly in the 10th. That, I think, is what was in the People's Choice box. And aside from that Mahler third, to be honest with you, that's a pretty damn good box. But of course, it went in and out of print immediately because what the people choose doesn't make any difference. They don't particularly care, which gives you about as much insight as you need to know into the attitude of the major labels to what the people decide to choose. Or maybe they just realized the whole concept was stupid and they deleted it out of embarrassment. So let's look at what we have here. None of these editions purport to be complete editions. A complete Mahler edition really is sort of impossible, and I'm rather happy that none of them tried to do it. The reason it's impossible is because, first of all, neither Warner EMI nor Universal has his opera, Die Drei Pintos. There are 2 complete recordings of it at least. There's one on Naxos, which is live and not terribly good, and there's one the original one was on RCA. I think RCA Eurodisc, actually, but and that's very, very good. And it's a very good opera. It's really, really a good opera. It's written in faux Weber style because it's based on Weber sketches. But most of it is original Mahler, and it's very good original Mahler, early Mahler, and it ought to be recorded. I could sing it to you. It's very tuneful and very, very enjoyable and splendidly orchestrated as usual. Just delightful. But you also have to deal with the fact that we have all of those editions of things that Mahler made. Now, his Bach suite has been recorded quite a few times, and it's a delightful Stokowskian arrangement of Bach's orchestral suites, movements from them, assembled into one giant suite, was extremely popular in Mahler's day, and he played it a lot. He was very happy with it. And then, of course, there are his editions of the Schumann symphonies, which Chailly and others have recorded, and his editions of the Beethoven symphonies. And if you really care about what Mahler did, then you would have to include some of these other things, and you'd have to decide which ones. Also, his arrangements of the Schubert and Beethoven string quartets. There's only 2 of those, but those have a concert life of their own in Mahler's arrangements, even though he didn't have to do any really heavy-duty sort of arranging, but they're very, very nice. And there's some other things. Never mind, we're not even going to talk about how many editions of his own symphonies. Happily, the Mahler Gesellschaft, which has done some horrible things to Mahler, messing around with the order of movements in the sixth and trying to tell us that the solo double bass in the first symphony and the third movement isn't a solo, and some just asinine stuff. But they at least have not been completely Brucknerian and issued separate editions of everything he did on any given day, except for the first. The first, they've put out this provisional, God. They put out every version of the first except the first version of the first, which doesn't make any sense at all. So there are no complete Mahler editions. That's a long way of saying that. What we have are these two boxes, and let's just see what's in them. And then we will be done with Mahler editions for a while. I'm really kind of happy about that. It's been fun going through all this stuff, all these box sets and partial box sets and whatnot. We're going to do some partial box sets of other people because that turned out to be an interesting experiment. So anyway, here is the little bookie. And in the little bookie, we find the following performances. Let's see here. Actually, quite a bit of what was in the People's Choice edition. You have the Kubelik Mahler 1, but you get Blumina from the Ozawa Mahler 1. Actually, it would have been nice to put in the whole Ozawa Mahler 1. It's one of the great unbespoken Mahler 1s. The Zubin-Mehta Mahler 2 with Vienna, which is a wonderful Mahler 2. It's nice to have. And then we have, let's see, what else do we have here? Let's see. Oh, the Bernhard Haitink Mahler 3 with the Concertgebouw. That's a great Mahler 3. That's a very good choice. I'm quite happy with that. It's an excellent choice. It really is. Oh, this light here. I was wondering, what is this light? It's the sun. The sun shining in from that side. It's very interesting. Okay. Then we have a bunch of pictures of dead people. Okay. Mahler 4. Boulez. Oh, that's odd. Boulez in Cleveland. Not bad, but nobody's first choice. A rather cool performance, as you might expect. Then you get Totenfire. That's the original version of the first movement of the Second Symphony. That's with Boulez in Chicago, and it's extremely boring. It's a boring performance. It was coupled originally with just a terrible Strauss, Also sprach Zarathustra. You remember that disc? Yeah, that was fun. Let's see, number 5, Bernstein Vienna, which is great. Number 6, Abato Berlin. It's not bad. Not bad. It's a little underplayed. I like his Chicago recording better. It has more gravitas. And if any symphony should have gravitas, it's the 6th. But it's okay. It's surprisingly okay. Then the 7th, O Sinopoli. That's a mess. It's just a mess. The playing is terrible and the performance is wayward. And it's funny, too, because that's a symphony, sort of a modernist / almost expressionist thing that you'd think Sinopoli would do really well. But he was so on again, off again, and this was just off. The finale is just unspeakably bad. Okay, number 8, Schulte. That was the People's Choice as well, and it's excellent. And let's see, number 9. Number 9 is, Carillon. Is this the live Carillon? Yes, the live Carillon. That's great. Absolutely. One of the great nines. And his first one, he remade it live. The first one has that fabulous moment in the Rondo Burlesque where the E-flat clarinet comes in a bar early and everybody gets scrambled and Carillon has to slow down and wait for them all to catch up and get back together. And they do. A couple bars later, it's kind of a fun moment because at that point he had this legendary perfectionism, which he never had in real life. There were always mistakes and things in his recordings that he never corrected. And number 10 is Chailly. So that's the symphonies. And let's see what else we get. Das Lied von der Erde with Cellini, with Brigitte Fassbender and Francisco Araiza. This is an interesting but not perfect Das Lied. Fassbender she's kind of hollow and hooty sounding. I think Araiza's pretty good. He really is. And Giulini's conducting is a bit erratic. And at the very end of Abschied, he actually follows Mahler's instructions, which don't make a lot of sense, actually. They say that you should play the whole final from Die Liebe Erde, Alubera, that business, in one. You conduct it in one. Well, if you conduct it in one, it's going to go very, very fast. And so it does. And it sounds just not quite right. It's an interesting experiment that doesn't quite come off. And then we get this Kadab and Vunderhorn. Oh, God, this is horrible. This is Anne-Sophie Otter, Thomas Kvastov, the Berlin Philharmonic, the worst Kadab and Vunderhorn ever. Horrible, horrible balances, awful sound. It's all wrong. It's so wrong. It's unnatural. It's evil. It's just, oh, God. Okay, then we get the Songs of a Wayfarer, Kindertotenlieder, and Rückertlieder. This is the Thomas Hampson Bernstein Vienna Phil recording. Also not great. It really isn't. Hampson, I don't, I've never been persuaded by him as a Mahler singer, although he tried to make a lot of hay about it. And these performances strike me as somewhat uncomfortable. Now, I saw them do the Rückertlieder live in Carnegie Hall. Some of you may have been there. And I wonder if you remember what happened. Oh, that was quite the experience. Because at the end of Mitternacht, you have the piano, and it's in like, what's the tempo? It's in like 6/2, and it's written in the score in old notation with breves and longs. Those whole notes with like things. I'm not surprised people didn't know how to read them correctly, and the pianist took the whole end of it, the big gorgeous climax with the rippling arpeggios and the glissandos on the keyboard, at double time. I mean, double time from what Bernstein was conducting. So the whole orchestra is grandly going, Du hältst die Wacht, and the piano is supposed to go whoop, like that. Well, Hampson was going, Du hältst, and the piano's going whap, whap, like this. And Bernstein was furious. As he walked off stage, he cocked his fist and threatened to punch out the pianist. He shook his fist at him. It was like, you son of a bitch. It was really kind of fun. But the recording itself is just not all that persuasive, I think. Aside from that moment, which isn't in the recording, of course, but that was the live thing. Then we get Das Klagende. Which Das Klagende is this one? Oh, this is Schei. Okay, excellent Das Klagende, one of the best ones. And then the Lieder und Gesänge aus der Jugendzeit with all kinds of people. Let's see. Bernd Weichel is singing some of it. And with with Sinopoli. Oh, these are some of the orchestral ones. They were orchestrated, and some of the piano ones. And this is with Thomas Hampson and Anne-Sophie Otter again, and they were orchestrated by Berio. Remember, he did some of that. So those are okay. And we get the piano quartet. It doesn't make any difference who's doing that. It's with some of the Hagen people and some others. And finally, the entr'acte from Die Drei Pintos with the Russian National Orchestra under Mikhail Pletinev. At least we get the entr'acte, which is all Mahler. It's his version of like a little Weber overture. It's lovely. It actually has a tune. The main theme of it is almost identical to the concluding Polonaise of Beethoven's Triple Concerto. I always get them mixed up in my head, because it's like da 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 ba da ba ba da da do 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 do. Well, that's the Beethoven, and the Mahler is something very similar to that. I can't untangle them in my head. So that's this edition, which is probably long out of print, but I would be remiss, excuse me, if I didn't discuss it. And I'd hate being remiss. It's so bad to be remiss. Now let's look at what we got in the EMI version, or Warner, whatever it was. Now this one is has, I think, more discs in it. This is 16 CDs. This, I think, is 14 CDs. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. They're all out of print anyway. Now, this one is going to be interesting because at the time this came out, EMI and Warner had not yet merged. And if Warner had been available, there could have been some more interesting choices in this. But as it was, we were limited to EMI. And so we have to see what EMI does. There's a certain historical aspect to this edition, which is kind of fun. So let's see what we got, shall we? Okay, here we go. Das Klagenlied, Simon Rattle. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's badly recorded. I mean, the offstage band is like in Manchester, not in Birmingham, and the singing is just okay, and it's typical Simon Rattle, second rate. Then there's the piano quartet again with Domus, which is perfectly fine, that single movement. And then we have, let's see, Songs of a Wayfarer. Let's see, the Songs of a Wayfarer. This is with, oh, good Lord. Oh, it's the Fischer D-Scal with Furtwängler. That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And the First Symphony is Chicago and Giulini. Now, that's an interesting performance. Some people find it a mite sleepy. It's like, I don't think Giulini did it. It's very serious and deliberate in tempo, but it's Chicago, so they give the necessary oomph where the music needs it. It's nice to have that one. The Second Symphony is Klemperer. Had to be Klemperer at this point. I mean, they could have done Tenstedt. That would have been an interesting choice as well, a good choice, because he always did a great Mahler too. But it's the Klemperer, which is a classic. And then you get three of the early songs, with Ian Bostridge and Antonio Pappano. I mean, if you care which ones. And then there's some more of the Lieder und Gesänge, some of the earlier ones. And these are with, all kinds of people. Let's see here. Let's see, Christa Ludwig. She does some of the Vunderhorn songs, and Fischer D-Scal and Fassbender, and who's with Aldo? Oh, yes. Oh, Alice Coote and some other people like that, with Gerald Moore and Daniel Barenboim and Roger Vignola. And, it's just a real Gesang fest. So that's fine. I mean, they're all very good. There's nothing to bitch about there. Symphony number 3, which Simon Rattle. Ugh. Okay, Blumina with Paavo Järvi, the Frankfurt Radio Symphony. Well, that's interesting to have, just a tiny movement. Symphony number 4, Jascha Horenstein and Margaret Price with the London Philharmonic. Well, that's interesting. Remember, that was on Monitor. And I suppose that's a rarity. And of course, Horenstein's Mahler has its cult following. None of it has held up particularly well. The 4th was, Margaret Price is wonderful. It's not a bad performance of the 4th. The problem with it, as with most Horenstein of everything, from this period in his career in any case, is that in the first movement, he's so stiff. He never makes tempo adjustments the way Mahler directs. He just conducts in the same tempo all the way through. Some people say that gives the music structural coherence. Yes, and we all want structural coherence. The problem is that's complete bullshit. Structure is a function of proportion. Proportion is a function of tempo. Certain parts should be quicker than other parts because that way they last longer or shorter, and that gives you your proportion. And so if you ignore that, that means that some of the parts that should be smaller because they're faster are going to be stretched out and be longer. It's like having a building in which the columns are as large as the actual rooms or the walls. No, it's not the way it's supposed to go. That's the deficit in this performance. But it's not horrible. And it's not, the music survives, but we have to call it for what it is, right? But anyway, Horenstein people will have an orgasm because they don't really have very many reasons to have orgasms, and then there it is. So that's marvelous. Let's see, Symphony number 5, Tenstedt. Oh, that's not so great either. It's not terrible, but Tenstedt's live Mahler 5. It's also EMI Polish. Now that was great. Oh, look, recorded live. It's the live one. Ignore me. This is hot. Ooh, that's hot. Kindertotenlieder, Kathleen Ferrier and Bruno Walter. Ugh. I mean, it's not. Again, it's not terrible. It's old, obviously. It's in dim sound. It's okay. But they had Janet Baker. They used Janet Baker for the Ruckert Lieder with Barbaroli. Why not with the Kindertotenlieder? The reason is because they were British. Kathleen Ferrier was British. She died young. She was tragic. There is nothing the English musical establishment likes more than young female singers who die tragically young. I mean, that is the guaranteed way to have an illustrious posthumous career with no regard whatsoever to the actual musical quality of your work. Zippo! So, there you go. Let's see, number 6, Barbaroli. Well, that's getting reissued quite shortly in the Barbaroli Mahler partial box, which we've already discussed. A very unique performance with the Andante second. I always play it with the movements in the right order, with the scherzo second. Okay, number 7. Oh, God, Simon Rattle. That was horrible. That was bad. Bad. I believe that was a live recording. It was terrible sonically and a rather glib and uninteresting performance. So no, that's not so hot. And then we get Kadab and Vunderhorn. Well, this is the classic Zell with Schwarzkopf and Fischer-Dieskau. Zell is amazing. With the London Symphony. It's just fantastic. This is the one where he spent something like 3 days in rehearsal trying to find the right suspended symbol for the end of Das irdische Leben. And boy, does it have the best suspended symbol at the end that you've ever heard, because that's the last note of the song. It's da-da-dum, da-da-dum, psh. He wanted something dark and spooky, and damned if he didn't find it, even if he made the player go through 400 different symbols to do it. And then we have, let's see, by the way, you have to tolerate Schwarzkopf. And Fischer-Dieskau gets in Schwarzkopf mode in these. So the performances are very très expressif, as they say en français. It's very expressive, but I think they're hopelessly mannered. I mean, Zell is so great, and it's not bad singing, of course, but the way they cutesy poo around with the text, it's just painful. I mean, these are supposed to be sung like folk songs with a certain innocence and directness, and innocence and directness were not in Schwarzkopf's vocabulary ever. Let's see what else we got. The 8th. The 8th is, who is the 8th? Well, it has lots of people. Tenstedt. I thought it was Tenstedt, yeah. It's a really good 8th. Tenstedt's 8th is completely overlooked by everybody and underrated. It was famous when it came out for everyone saying, well, he uses a smaller chorus than usual. It's the symphony of not 1,000, the symphony of only a few hundred, but it's a really good 8th, particularly in the second movement, which goes, it's so beautifully paced and catches the Kadab and Vunderhorn character of the music so beautifully. It has that wide-eyed innocence that it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful 8th. It really is. Das Lied von der Erde ist Klepper, one of the great ones ever, with Christa Ludwig and Fritz Wunderlich. Yes. Excellent choice. The 9th, oh God, the Berlin Phil and Barbaroli. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. I don't know what anyone ever saw in that performance, frankly. It's badly played. It's erratically conducted. The sonics are lousy. It has virtually nothing to recommend it. But, of course, like the Horenstein cult, there's a Barbaroli cult, and the cult likes it. So what are you going to do, right? Number 10 is Simon Rattle with Berlin. Very, very good. Rattle did 10th twice. Remember, he did it with Bournemouth originally, an early EMI digital, which was somewhat scruffily played, but it was a good performance, and this is a very good performance that's not scruffily played. So that's nice to have. Then we get the Kindertotenlieder again. Oh, with Thomas Hampson again. I mean, how many Mahler song cycles with Thomas Hampson can we take with the piano? Who's the pianist? Wolfram Rieger is the pianist. I mean, then we get some. Let's see what else. Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen. These are like historical or live things with Janet Baker and Barbaroli. And the Halle this time, different from the my recording and Ich bin der Welt abhanden. Oh, they're all doing Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen. It's 4,000 versions, a whole disc of Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen. Holy crap. Boy, is that a waste of time. Oh, why are they doing this? I guess it's a thing. I guess it's a thing. It's a thing. No, the Halle version is from the Janet Baker disc. Didn't they just give it to us with Rückert-Lieder? Wait a minute. Now I'm getting confused. Rückert-Lieder, oh, is with New Philharmonia, and this is with Halle. And then we have Christa Ludwig doing it with Gerald Moore, and then we get Christa Ludwig with Klemperer doing it, so she does it twice. And then Fischer Dieskau and Daniel Barenboim. And then Thomas Allen with the English Chamber Orchestra under Jeffrey Tate. And then Brigitte Fassbender with Irwin Gage. And, oh my goodness, Katerina I'm not even going to try, with Roger Vignolis. And then the Urlicht with Alice Coote and Julius Drake. That's it. Oh, that's just silly. Oh my God. I mean, that's one of those discs that annoys the crap out of me because it's trying to impose this sort of faux spiritual otherworldliness on Mahler by having everybody do the same thing over and over again pointlessly. And I hate things like that. They just piss me off. So there you go. There's a curmudgeonly fetch for you. So that's the EMI one. Basically, this is the better of the two. But like I said, they're all out of print anyway. But I wanted to go through them just to document this bit of Mahlerian lore on the 150th anniversary of his birth, 100th anniversary of his death event. And, these things were there. They came out and they existed. And so we might as well talk about them because it's at least fun to talk about the performances, which, of course, are still circulating in one form or another. So for that reason, it may be useful. And that, my friends, concludes the big Mahler set extravaganza that we've been involved in over the past week and a half or so. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have in making it. Keep on listening, my friends. Take care.